She never thought the knock on the door that night would change everything. The sound echoed through the small house like a warning. Her hands trembled as she reached for the handle, heart pounding as though it already knew. When the door opened, there he was, a man from her past, the one she had spent years trying to forget. His eyes carried storms inside them, and yet there was a softness too. "Clara," he whispered, as though her name itself had been buried under silence. She froze. It had been 18 years since she last saw Daniel. The boy she once loved, the boy who disappeared without a word, leaving her with nothing but questions. Now he stood there, a grown man, weathered, carrying secrets heavy enough to bend his shoulders. Put yourself in Clara's shoes for a moment. The man who broke your heart suddenly returns. Unannounced, in the dead of night, would you slam the door or let him in? Her voice came out like a whisper, cracking under weight. "What are you doing here?" He looked past her, as if afraid the shadows behind might swallow him whole. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. And before she could stop herself, she moved aside. He stepped in. The air between them tightened, as though the walls themselves knew something forbidden was happening. Clara noticed the scar along his jaw, a fresh bruise near his temple. "Daniel, what happened to you?" He sank onto the couch, his hands shaking as he tried to speak. "I can't explain everything right now," he said, his voice low. "But you need to know. Someone is looking for me. And if they find me, they'll find you too." Her stomach dropped. Danger. It wasn't just a reunion, it was a warning. This was where everything started to go wrong. The night stretched on. Daniel told her bits and pieces. A job gone wrong. People he crossed who would never forgive. Clara's heart warred with itself. He had left her once, without reason, tearing her apart, and yet, looking at him now, bruised and broken, something inside her still ached to protect him. She whispered, "Why me? After all this time, why come back here?" His eyes lifted to hers, glistening with a truth that nearly undid her. "Because you're the only person I ever trusted." Those words. They shattered her walls, even as fear built new ones. She wanted to scream at him for leaving. She wanted to hold him for coming back. Instead, she simply said, "You can stay here tonight." But sleep never came. Not for Clara. Not with danger pressing against her windows like an unseen hand. At 3 a.m., she found herself standing in the kitchen, watching Daniel through the dim glow of the living room lamp. He was awake too, sitting on the couch, head in his hands. A man who looked like he carried not just his own sins, but the weight of every life he had touched. When he noticed her, he tried to smile, but it broke halfway. "Do you hate me?" he asked softly. The question lodged in her chest. She wanted to say yes, but her silence betrayed her, and Daniel. He understood. "Clara," he whispered, "there's something I never told you. The reason I left." Her pulse quickened. The reason. The truth she had begged for all those years. But just as he opened his mouth, headlights swept across the window, a car, stopping outside her house. Her breath caught. Daniel's eyes turned to ice. "They found me." Cliffhanger. What happens when Clara opens the curtain? Who is in that car? And why does Daniel believe they'll both be in danger now? The night that began with a knock was only the beginning of a storm that would rip apart everything she thought she knew. Clara's breath fogged against the cold window pane as she peered outside. The car idled under the street lamp, its headlights cutting through the dark like twin blades. A shadow moved inside. Not one. Two. Her pulse hammered. Daniel. Who are they? He was already on his feet, jaw tight, fists clenched as though ready for a war he couldn't win. "They're the ones I told you about," he muttered. "The reason I can't stay in one place." Clara's heart sank. Her quiet life, her safe little world, it was unraveling right in front of her. She whispered, "If they're here for you, why would they come to me?" Daniel's eyes locked on hers, raw and urgent. "Because, Clara, you're the only weakness I have left." For a moment, silence swallowed the room. The weight of his confession pressed down like a storm cloud. Clara staggered back, shaking her head. "No, don't you dare put this on me." He moved closer, his voice rough. They'll use you to break me. That's what they do. Then you should never have come here. She snapped, voice cracking under fear, his face twisted with regret. I know, he whispered. But I had nowhere else to go. Outside. The car door slammed. Footsteps crunched on gravel. Clara's body went rigid. Get down, Daniel hissed, pulling her toward the shadows of the kitchen. She wanted to fight him, to scream, to demand every answer he had hidden for nearly 2 decades. But survival clawed louder. The knock came, not gentle, not hesitant. It rattled the door on its hinges. Daniel, a voice, deep, sharp, come out. We don't want to hurt her. Just you. Clara's breath hitched. They knew her name. Daniel's hand found hers in the dark, warm, steady, and despite everything, she felt her fear ease just enough to hold on. He whispered, I'll handle this. Stay quiet, please. But Clara had never been good at staying quiet, not when her heart was on the line. She yanked her hand free, whispering fiercely, Tell me the truth first. Why did you leave me, Daniel? What did you do? The knock grew louder, the voice sharper. Last chance. Daniel's eyes burned with the weight of memory, and finally, he spoke. I left because I was working for them, he confessed, his voice barely audible. I did things, Clara, things I can't erase. But when I met you, I wanted out. I wanted a different life. They didn't let me go. They dragged me back. And if I stayed, you would have been caught in it too. Her stomach churned. The boy she loved. The man she still felt tied to. A criminal. A fugitive. And yet, the only person who had ever made her heart race this way, tears blurred her vision. You should have trusted me, she whispered. The door cracked open with a violent kick. 2 men stormed inside. Dark coats heavy with menace. Daniel stepped forward, shielding her with his body. Daniel, the taller one sneered, still running, still hiding. His gaze flicked to Clara. And this must be the famous distraction. Clara's blood ran cold. The man reached into his coat. Before Clara could scream, Daniel lunged. The room erupted in chaos. Shouts, a struggle. The sound of wood splintering as bodies crashed against furniture. Clara pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering. One of the men fell, groaning, but the other grabbed Daniel by the throat, shoving him back. Clara's eyes darted to the counter. The knife block. Her hand moved before her fear could stop it. She seized the handle of the kitchen knife and stepped forward. Her voice shook. Let him go, the man froze, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. You don't have it in you. But he underestimated Clara. Because love and fear can turn anyone into something unrecognizable. She pressed the blade forward, close enough that the man's smirk faltered. And in that instant, Daniel broke free, shoving him to the ground. Both men scrambled toward the door, retreating into the night with curses trailing behind them. The car engine roared, fading into the distance. Silence fell. Clara's hand shook as she dropped the knife onto the counter. Daniel turned to her, chest heaving, blood trickling from his lip. For a moment, neither spoke, and then he whispered, You saved me. Tears streaked her face. No, Daniel. I just saved us both. He moved closer, cupping her face in his rough, trembling hands. And in that fragile, broken moment, their lips found each other. Not in the innocence of first love, but in the fire of survival, loss, and longing. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe, but it was real. Later, when the house was still and the threat had slipped into the shadows, Clara lay awake beside him, her mind spun with everything she had learned. Daniel's lies, his sins, his return, and still. Her heart whispered the one truth she couldn't deny. She had waited 18 years for closure. What she got instead was a dangerous beginning. And as dawn crept through the curtains, painting the room with pale light, Clara knew her life would never be the same again, because Daniel wasn't just a man from her past. He was her future's greatest gamble. And sometimes, the greatest risks are the ones we take for love. If you were Clara, would you have let him in that night? Would you risk everything for someone who once broke you? Or would you have closed the door and walked away? Tell me in the comments, because this is the choice that changes everything.